Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Returning the Humanity to Homeless Services session at this year's virtual data summit. My name is Jerry Leslie, and I'm going to be helping moderate this session. Everyone will be muted throughout the session. If you have any questions, you can enter them into the chat box on the right-hand side of the screen or in the session page of the Whova web app. If you're calling in by phone, make sure to enter your audio PIN. And if you're using your computer audio, be sure that you're using a headset to help reduce background noise. After this session is over, a video recording will be made available on the HMIS Learning Center and on the Whova page. So we're going to get going here pretty quickly. I know that this session, I want to say two things about it really quickly. Number one, this session is going to take the whole hour that we have coming up here. And number two, I know that Shanna has talked about this, that this session is going to be something that's deeply personal for her. And I'm excited to hear the story that she has to share. But because of that, one of the things we're going to do, and she'll explain this a little bit on how we'll do this, but we're going to hold questions, and she's going to have a couple ways in which you can interact with her and ask questions or have dialogue with her that she'll discuss. But we'll keep those held during the session to allow Shanna the maximum amount of time to tell the story that she has for us today. So Shanna, with that, I am turning it over to you to start the presentation.
Thank you, Jerry. Oh, this is a big one. Hello, everyone. I'm Shanna Cherubini. I am the lead HMIS data strategist and consultant, also the founder of MTAN Solutions, LLC. Today, I'm excited to share insights on returning the humanity to homeless services. As Jerry mentioned, this is a deeply, deeply personal and important topic to me. And if you know me, you know I don't do fluff. So we're going to dive deep. Given the nature of today's content, I shared my session notes with individuals from diverse racial, educational, political, and socioeconomic backgrounds. I did this to ensure that my message that I'm about to convey will be well received, despite my bull in a china shop personality. And I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who agreed to be my sensitivity reviewers. Your kind words of encouragement have given me the courage to wade further out into vulnerability than I have ever gone before. That said, I do look forward to engaging with all of you. As Jerry mentioned, there's a lot to cover. I could go days on many of these topics. And so trying to shove it all in an hour was difficult. And as I said, I'm going to be going deep, and it's taking everything in me to do this. So I do ask that you hold questions and remain muted. If things pop up throughout the presentation, I am going to have my email information available at the end. And I would love for you to reach out and email me. I will absolutely respond. Maybe take me a couple of days. I'm going to need a little bit of time to recoup, but I will absolutely respond. And there will be opportunities in the future to have some open dialogue regarding this. Without further ado, thank you all for joining me, and let's get started. As a freelance consultant with MTAN, I specialize in comprehensive HMIS data strategies and support. But my mission goes beyond data. I advocate for systemic change. I promote self-care and well-being among service providers. And I work to ensure that every individual and agency that I work with is recognized and supported as more than a number. This commitment is embodied in my organization, MTAN Solutions, which stands for more than a number. My approach to service delivery is a unique blend of technical expertise, empathy, and advocacy. My direct experiences have illuminated the issue of depersonalization in our sector, where individuals in need are often reduced to mere statistics. Additionally, the pervasive issue of burnout among service providers, driven by the relentless pressure to do more with less, threatens both their well-being and the quality of care that they offer. This cycle of stress and exhaustion undermines our mission to help, making the need for systemic change and adequate support more crucial than ever. Throughout my career, I have witnessed various challenges created and or felt by people at all levels of our work. My background in social work and criminal justice, coupled with my personal and professional experiences, have fueled my empathy and my dedication to addressing these issues. Many of you may already know me from my work in Detroit, or my previous roles with the Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness or Child and Family Services of the UP before that. Many of you may have had positive experiences, while others perhaps not so much. Some might have joked about my Shannatude, or even said, I'm going to Shanna Cherubini this when needing to voice unspoken truths. Yes, Amanda, I know you're out there. I heard that, and I was never so proud to hear my name used as a verb in that context. Others may not know me at all. Regardless of our level of interaction or any preconceived notions, my hope is that by the end of this session, you will come to know me more deeply, beyond my professional title, or the color of my skin, or my outspoken personality. I aim for you to understand the roots of my Shannatude and appreciate the journey that has helped shape it. For those of you wondering what Shannatude even is, it is a term lovingly coined by my colleagues at MICA. I believe it was Miss Beth that came up with that one. It's well known among my peers, and it embodies my passionate, outspoken, and unapologetically bold approach to advocacy. It means speaking the unspoken truths, even when it is uncomfortable, and challenging the status quo in hopes of actually making a difference. Today, I stand before you and I share my heart and my experiences. You will see me in all of my imperfect and messy glory. I don't do this because I enjoy making myself uncomfortable. And let's be honest, I so totally am. I'm way outside my comfort zone right now. But I do this because I believe this session and those like it have the power to change the entire landscape of this field. I'm not doing this to stoke my ego or advance my career. In fact, after you hear what I have to say, I might just find myself voted off the island. No, I do this because it is my contribution to humanity. It is my calling from God to bring hope and healing back to a broken and divided world. If just one of you takes something away from this presentation today and uses it to improve your life or the lives around you, the ripple effect can lead to powerful and lasting change. Before we begin, I do want to acknowledge my directness. My life experiences have shaped my responses to perceived injustice or feelings of being unheard, disrespected, or overlooked, whether those injustices are against myself or others. Throughout my life, I have been profoundly affected by the brokenness and failings of various systems: the court system, the child welfare system, the education system, the social service system, the mental health system, and the list goes on. Those experiences have fundamentally altered the way that my brain functions. For instance, it's nearly impossible for me to treat somebody different just because of their job title. I find myself speaking to mayors and CEOs the same way that I speak to entry-level employees or someone that I'm serving meals to at the local warming center. Maybe with a little less cussing. Job titles mean nothing to me. It is your character that determines my level of respect for you. I once viewed my inability to respect authority based solely on title as a flaw, a brokenness within me. But how can you blindly respect authority when experiences have shown you that those in power may prioritize their interest over yours, exploiting and disregarding you, rather than protecting you and supporting you? Challenging authority in such situations has become a necessary act of self-preservation and advocacy for me. I struggled for a long time to change this characteristic within myself, feeling less than because of it. However, I've come to understand that my Shannatude, this tendency to challenge authority when ethically and morally necessary, it's been a source of growth and betterment within me, but not only for myself, but also for those around me. I want to thank my friends and my colleagues in Detroit and the many individuals that I have come to have the pleasure of knowing through my volunteer work. Because of them, I've come to understand that this is a privilege not afforded to everyone. I recognize that significance. And I commit to staying self-reflective so that I can continue to channel it positively. And I ask you, my friends and colleagues, to please help hold me accountable. I also ask for your patience and your understanding as I continue to work on my messy parts. I am and always will be a work in progress. Please keep this in mind if I say anything today that comes across as offensive or upsetting. I am committed to continuous improvement, and I value any constructive feedback that can help me grow. Before we move off this slide, I also want to just give a brief shout out here to my friend and colleague, Miss Nona Ingram. She created this beautiful tufted rug that's on the screen. I've got it displayed in my office. I keep it hanging there as a constant reminder to stay the course. If you're interested in seeing more of Nona's artistic work, or maybe perhaps getting your own custom design, we will be providing a link to her website. Ooh, all right. So before we begin today's presentation, I do want to issue a cautionary note. Although I won't delve into extensive details, I will briefly address some challenging topics. Trauma is deeply connected to the issues that we face in our line of work. It influences how individuals become precariously housed, and it affects us, our friends, our colleagues, and the broader community. To address trauma effectively, we must discuss potentially sensitive topics. Also, to explain why the overly blunt data lady is the one that's here discussing returning the humanity to homeless services, I need to share what has shaped and equipped me with the perspective that I bring today. If any of the topics that I cover make you uncomfortable, please take care of yourself in whatever way you need, whether that means stepping away, reaching out for support, whatever it may be. Just know that I see you. I understand, and I hope that you find peace and insight and love as you continue on your own healing journey. I recognize that some of the words on this list that are reflected here are not the most current or respectful terminology. However, as I share my story, I'm using the labels that have been part of my experience, whether through my own life or through secondary trauma from being closely connected to loved ones who are facing significant challenges. While using inclusive language is vital for changing public perception and reducing stigma, it is crucial to acknowledge that the significant impact that those experiences have and the weight of the labels that many of us have had to carry. They shape the lenses through which we view ourselves and the world. My journey has been marked by various forms of trauma, as you can see here. Additionally, growing up in Michigan's rural Upper Peninsula, I also had to face the added Yooper stigma of being viewed as ignorant due to my origin. To my fellow Yoopers, I see you. I see you. To make matters worse, the university that I had attended last year, closed last year. And as one of the few members of my family with a college degree, this closure and the perceived diminished value of my degree further contributed to a sense of imposter syndrome that has taken me a very, very long time to shake. During a particularly challenging time in my career, I was grappling with severe burnout and a crippling sense of imposter syndrome, and I confided in a well-respected colleague. This colleague, who I still hold in great esteem, shared an article with me that suggested that I could not genuinely be affected by imposter syndrome due to the color of my skin. Well, responses like this are unintentionally hurtful, and this felt dismissive of my personal experiences. It did underscore the complexities of understanding individual experience through different lenses. This moment highlighted the damage that can be done when broad generalizations are applied without deeper comprehension of each individual person's struggle. Now, I do want to take a moment and I do want to acknowledge that people of color face systemic racism, discrimination, and biases that permeate every aspect of their lives. These challenges are compounded by microaggressions and institutional barriers, making it a constant struggle for equity and recognition. And it hurts my heart to know that folks need to go through that. Well, I will never, never fully grasp the specific challenges that are faced by people of color or other marginalized groups. This does not invalidate or negate my struggles or those of anyone else. In January of 2023, I hit the lowest point of burnout in my life. My heart was heavy as my daughter, who had endured homelessness and suffered from severe mental health issues for nearly a decade, lay in a medically induced coma. Despite my efforts to shield my children from the trauma and dysfunction that I had experienced growing up, no amount of love and protection could counteract the genetic legacy of mental illness, health problems, or a predisposition to addictive behaviors. She had reached her breaking point, and soon after, so did I. During this incredibly painful time, I found myself sitting in a meeting, another meeting, dominated by bureaucratic posturing, rehashing the same unresolved issues that were previously discussed in countless circular meetings and emails before that. And something inside of me broke. I mean, like really, really broke. The last semblance of the mask that I had carefully constructed as a child and wore all my life, it's finally shattered. It was too heavy. It was too heavy to keep on any longer. And in that moment, I was confronted with my own humanity and my calling to connect to myself and others on a deeper level. But I'm not alone. Trauma deeply influences many individuals, especially those in our sector. It impacts our mental, emotional, and physical well-being through direct experiences, or hear me, also through secondary exposure. Burnout arises from chronic workplace stress. It manifests as emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, a reduced sense of accomplishment. In fact, about 23% of the homeless sector workers, when the study was done in 2016, experienced burnout and compassion fatigue, which adversely affected or affects their work and their life. Now, PTSD develops after exposure to severe trauma, such as death, injury, or violence. Again, either directly or through indirect means, such as professional exposure to traumatic stories. Symptoms can include re-experiencing the events, avoidance, mood changes, hyperarousal, hypervigilance. And alarmingly, 31% of workers showed symptoms that were indicative of PTSD. While there are some overlaps, burnout and PTSD are distinct. One may suffer from PTSD from a specific event or burnout from ongoing stress independently. Workers with past trauma, such as the litany that I gave you, and many of you I know, struggle in the same regard. Workers with past trauma may be more prone to PTSD, but not necessarily more susceptible to burnout. This highlights the importance of trauma history in understanding the susceptibility to PTSD. The prevalence of these issues emphasizes the need for more trauma-informed care and improved support and training for frontline workers. We do a lot of trauma-informed care for clients, but there really needs to be that support on the worker side as well to help mitigate burnout and PTSD and enhancing their capacity to be able to handle the role that they're in. As we discuss these issues, it is important to know that the data presented on the screen here is from 2016. I wasn't able, it may be out there, but I wasn't able to find anything more relevant or recent. And the study was done before COVID, before the takeoff of coordinated entry systems, community battles over money, grants pass, and all of the litany of additional challenges that we're facing today. The context highlights the evolving challenges and stresses that are faced by professionals that are working in this field, and it underscores a lack of research, understanding, and support available. And it gets better. Well, trauma and other factors affect all of us. It's not the only challenge that we face. The recent Supreme Court decision in the Grants Pass case further complicates our efforts. The Grants Pass ruling has significant implications on both individuals that are experiencing housing instability and the agencies that support them. Other significant challenges, and there are quite a few, you can see from the screen, and you all know these: funding shortages, resource constraints, high demands, overcrowding, insufficient access to mental health and substance use services, economic inequality, system barriers, just having a diverse needs of the population that we're serving, lack of coordination among service providers, having to combat and deal with stigma and social perceptions, and the constant need of having to adapt to policy change. As we grapple with these numerous challenges, it is important to remember that behind every statistic and every policy are real people with unique stories whose experiences can guide them and guide us and inform our actions. Having a seat at the table to drive meaningful change is a privilege, and it comes with great responsibility. Our solutions must genuinely address the needs of those that are facing the challenges, which requires that we truly understand their needs rather than our distant perceptions. This means giving voice to individuals who have historically been silenced and overlooked. We must be the catalysts that bring their voices and their stories to the table. Whenever possible, we should create the opportunities for people to be heard directly, raw, unscripted, and unfiltered. When direct representation isn't possible, those of us with lived experience must carry these messages forward. But always be mindful that our perspectives can influence that narrative. I've been given a wonderful opportunity by being asked to present here today, and I would be remiss if I didn't use this platform to help others get their messages heard. So I would like to introduce you to James. James is a veteran who has served his country. He is a father and a grandfather and he has recently exited homelessness into his own apartment. When I first met James, I was serving meals at the local warming center in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, where I live. I continue to interact with him in an unofficial peer support role at Sheboygan Area Pay It Forward Day Center. And I later found myself at the library with James and others having some deep and meaningful conversations about life and traumatic experiences and failed systems. His kind eyes and his voice, as smooth as butter and as deep as the ocean, captures hearts and attention immediately. While his calm demeanor and his resilience and his drive to shed light on those who are too often ignored are deeply, deeply admired. I often tease James. I tell him that I would pay to hear him read the back of cereal boxes just to hear him speak. So when he expressed an interest in starting a podcast, I immediately encouraged him. And my daughter, who I spoke about earlier, she's working with me. My daughter and I have found purpose in making James's dream a reality. And we're doing what we can with, really, really limited knowledge of podcasting to set him up for success. My hope is to be able to connect James with groups such as Invisible People so that his beautiful voice and his cause can reach a broader audience. We're still working on setting up James's podcast, but if you would like to receive notifications when it's ready, please email me or connect with me on LinkedIn. I will have my contact information available at the end of the session. That's where I plan to promote him on LinkedIn. And I hope he goes far. Without further ado, I would like to play a brief, unfiltered audio clip in which James shines light on the issue of homelessness in Sheboygan. While I do realize that the summit is based in Michigan, the issues that James speaks about, such as living in an area with limited resources and lacking the political and public support, they're not confined to a specific state or county. As you listen to his message, you may find things that resonate with you.
Good
Oh, sorry.
evening, everyone. My name is James. I'll leave it at that. I'm here to talk about the situation in Sheboygan about the homeless that people seem to not want to realize, see, or care for that matter. But it happens. It's everywhere across the United States, not just here in Sheboygan. But because this is where I live, this is what I'm talking about. I see these people every day. I mean, I had to sleep outside. Actually, I slept outside of the library, outside of Mead Library one night. It was not a good feeling. I didn't dig that at all. But I had to do what I had to do. But with resilience and the grace of God, I have my own place now. I'm able to do things and come and go as I put these somewhat. But I want to try to bring some awareness to the fact that there are people are homeless here in Sheboygan when they have nowhere to turn. There's only a couple of options, one being the Salvation Army, which they're good. The people there, the case managers, they will work with you and do whatever they can, but on the same token, you have to put forth an effort also. Sheboygan is not cool with having people being homeless, especially here in the summertime. This is their money time. A Street is booming. you have the John Michael Kohler Art Center, you have the Wheel Center, you have the farmers market, you have the city green, you have concerts that's going, and the powers that be does not want to have people walking around, it's 80 degrees and they're wearing a coat. What that kind of gives you an idea right there. Oh, they're homeless or hanging out on the corner across from the library or whatever the case may be. But the fact remains, it happens. And people that are homeless, I would like to think that's not the choice that they made, but that's sometimes what happens, whether it's through drug addiction, alcohol addiction, mental health, or just everyday things that happen. Like I said, myself, I was homeless due to some medical issues, but you know, that's okay. I'm okay now. But that's why I'm talking to you people and letting you know that Sheboygan needs to be a little more open-minded and stop trying to sweep the situation under the rug, because it's not going to go away. It's not. And Sheboygan is not going to do anything to help the situation. I've heard that they will take people across to the county line just to get them out of here. And it makes sense. Trust me, Sheboygan does not, it's not all that picture perfect. Sheboygan has a history. I do remember, I was told, and I actually researched it, but there was a time not long ago, and I'm talking about in the 90s, that you could not be, if your skin was not Leave It to Beaver, you better get out of Dodge and don't let the sun come down on you, because 9 times out of 10, there was going to be not good repercussions. But even still, even now, the cops, they follow and they look at these people like they're trash, like they're an infestation or something like that. That's not true. They're still people for whatever reason. Some of them, like I said, they have different issues, whether it be medical, mental, or financial, or sometimes just they don't want to do that, but trying to get something out of the government. Who knows? But it's there. It's all across the United States, man. It's a bad thing. There should be something that can be done a little more, I think, in Sheboygan. There's only a couple of places that I know of that really will reach out. There's a place called Open Door. I've only been in there once. And I don't know, they seem more like it's more of a company than it is what it should be, which is to reach out and help people and whatnot. And then there's a place called Pay It Forward, which these guys are absolutely dynamite. They go out of their way. It's owned by Scott and Kathleen Labonte. She's a stay-at-home mom. He's a school teacher. But you go there anytime, and they will, if you ask them if it's there, you got it. If it's not there, they will try to find a way for you to access it, acquire it, or whatever the case may be, whether it be toothpaste, underwear, furniture, whatever the case may be, they're there. These people are dynamite. But the thing is that, like a Friday night in Sheboygan, look out, because everybody's going to the Wheel Center, Wild Center, however they want to pronounce it, because there's a play or there's a show or something going on, and they don't want to see people walking up and down the street with backpacks. And although everybody carries backpacks nowadays, 9 times out of 10, the least assume that they must be homeless, which to me is BS. But it's gotta change, and I don't know with me saying this has any bearing on it. 'Cause I'm just one person, but I'm doing this because I'm trying to do something to put the word out, and all the people that have these blinders on, take them off. It's not a horse race, so it's not like the Kentucky Derby where you put the blinders on and the horse only runs one way. Well, that's how some of the powers that be in Sheboygan are. They have the blinders up. They only go in one way, and they don't give two craps about what's happening on the other side. They got their nice houses, their nice money, and all that good stuff. But I just wanted to put a little word out there and share a little bit. And trust me, there will be more coming. So have a good evening, and you will hear some more from the dark side.
All right, Jerry, please tell me you were able to hear that.
We heard the entire thing, and I'll just say I'm quiet. That's wow. Wow.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, so I guess taking into account everything that I've said so far and everything that James has said so far, and looking at all the challenges that we face, I think the next important thing to do is look at what are things that maybe we do that hinder our efforts. So as we move into this next part of the session, it's essential to recognize the importance of self-awareness and accountability. We need to hold ourselves and our colleagues accountable by acknowledging how maybe we sometimes unnecessarily complicate our work. Understanding our actions may inadvertently create obstacles. Oh, I'm not sure what's happening there. Somebody got control of the screen. Understanding our actions may inadvertently create obstacles, but it allows us to identify areas for improvement. This is not a one-time effort. This is a lifelong practice of growing and evolving and becoming better. So here's just a few areas that we can work on. Just going to kind of go down the list. And as we kind of talk about these things, really try to do some self-reflection. Where do you see yourself in this list? Making assumptions? Forming assumptions about others' views, their capabilities and responsibilities without consultation creates significant barriers. For example, establishing initiatives or pilot projects or anything else without consulting the affected parties or assuming another agency's capacity to handle a project without proper assessment can overburden them. It could lead to project failure and strained relationships. And when it happens again and again and again, those relationships grow even more strained and the divide gets deeper. Poorly planned initiatives. Inadequate planning and execution wastes resources and fails to meet needs. Common causes, oftentimes because of the environment we're in, we're constantly putting out fires. There's always a pressure, there's always a timeline. And so that insufficient planning may be due to those external pressures. But there are also times that it's due to hasty decisions despite having ample time. Misrepresenting key concepts. Using terms, and just roll with me here. Using terms like racial equity and housing first without fully understanding the implications can be harmful. Introducing terms like white supremacy in tense communities especially to audiences that are unfamiliar with racial equity, can create divides. I've been in meetings where people have apologized for the color of their skin. And maybe I'm late to the game, but I'm pretty sure there's not a single person in this room that had a choice in that matter. Reporting on racial equity data without proper training, especially in communities with little diversity, is irresponsible and dangerous. There's this constant pressure coming down from the top, report your numbers, racial equity, look at your numbers, but there's no training behind it. Well, there is training behind it, but there was very little when that initiative was being pushed. And so what I would see would be communities, often racially, very diverse or not diverse communities, where it's primarily one race, would take their racial equity data and they would look at things like exit outcomes, for example, look at the percentage of individuals that are exiting to positive housing. And they would just look at the baseline numbers split by race, that just without taking the sample sizes into effect. You cannot compare 100 individuals to 10,000 and have that data be meaningful. It leads to misinformation, confusion, inadequate planning. Similarly, advocating for housing first without acknowledging the need for the person's connection, the purpose, supportive services can just set them up for failure. There's been such a big push, get them into housing, get them into housing. There are times that our peers are just being put into an apartment, no furniture, no nothing, just left. Tokenizing lived experience. Grouping all homeless individuals into broad categories fails to recognize their individuality. Tokenizing individuals' lived experience can lead to misrepresentation and place undue pressure on them to represent an entire group. If we were going to go into a community and start a pilot initiatives for families, any community in the US, would we do that based on the input of one family to represent the entire group? Ego-driven behavior. There's a lot of it in this field, and it has only gotten worse. Insisting on one's own solutions and excluding others from decision-making can hinder collaboration and alienate key stakeholders. Now, this differs from poorly planned initiatives. Ego-driven behavior is about prioritizing personal agendas over the collaborative input and the good of all. Political maneuvering, allowing politics and political dynamics to overly influence decisions can undermine objectives and effective decision-making. Meetings, oh Lord, many of us spend most of our time in meetings. Meetings that become unproductive, they become unproductive when participants lack engagement. I've been to so many meetings where folks come into the room and they're smiling and they're nodding like they're in agreement, and they leave and they are venting about what was discussed in the meeting, or they have no intention of implementing the things that were discussed. Not to mention excessive meetings can prevent staff from completing their other duties. I've worked in areas where it seems like the staff are in meetings 35 hours a week, and then they're expected to shove everything else that they're supposed to be doing in that remaining 5 hours. Circular meetings where topics are repeatedly discussed with no guidance, resolution, action steps, just a waste of time and resources. Micromanagement, overstepping and directing team initiatives can lead to limiting creativity and independent problem solving. Fostering division, focusing on complaints. Many of us get very, very, very burnt out and stressed out. But when we only focus on the negative and we only focus on the complaint rather than the solutions, we exacerbate the division that we have within teams. Overlooking neurodiversity. Failing to recognize and accommodate neurodiversity can limit the potential of a team member. It can lead to misunderstandings and miscommunication. It is essential to understand and support different neurological perspectives, to create that inclusive and productive work environment. Disengaged boards of directors. This is another thing that I've seen oftentimes, not oftentimes, but there are times where people will go to be on a board of directors for the clout and the advantages that they have with that title. But board of directors that are not actively engaged with the agency and the vision and supporting the staff and supporting the wellness can undermine agency morale and effectiveness. Agencies that promote, moving on to the next one here, agencies that promote wellness but don't align their actions can cause significant stress. So if you're promoting workers' wellness, but you're encouraging after hours work, or you're not respecting vacations, or you're glorifying, and this is another one I see often, glorifying overworking, it leads to burnout and decreased job satisfaction among your staff. And then you have to deal with a high rate of turnover. Failing to recognize and leverage employees' strengths and weaknesses when building teams leads to inefficiencies and missed opportunities. Oftentimes we're hired to serve a specific role. That's what we apply for, but maybe that's not where our strength is. Maybe that's not where we shine. So if things aren't working out, maybe it's time to ask your staff, look at their strengths and weaknesses and build your teams accordingly. Poor communication can lead to misunderstandings, inefficiencies, and breakdowns at all levels. So clear, consistent, and transparent communication is vital for smooth operations and team cohesion. Ineffective management of grants and finances can lead to severe consequences, such as delayed rent payments. We get folks into housing and try to build up some credibility only to have their rent payments coming in late. There's times where if grants aren't managed properly, a program overspends, they need to shut down midstream. And so we're looking at client displacement, service disruptions, damaged trust. Burnout and compassion fatigue. And this one I imagine might resonate with some. Ignoring signs of burnout and compassion fatigue harms our overall effectiveness and well-being, and it negatively impacts the quality of care that is being provided. Superficial professionalism, a false professional facade, excessive jargon, overemphasis on political correctness. It's great, but it can hinder authentic engagement and collaboration. Insecurities can lead or can prevent important issues from being addressed. So instead, folks either bottle it up and burn out, or they vent it and they create division. Failing to maintain healthy work-life balance can harm personal well-being and professional effectiveness. All that being said, I want to acknowledge I have made my fair share of mistakes over the years. I have gotten it wrong many, many times, and I will probably continue to do so. But I do continue to spend a significant amount of time in self-reflection, and I openly acknowledge that I'm not perfect. I consider myself a continuous work in progress, and I'm always eager to learn and grow. I deeply value hearing viewpoints, and I'm always looking for feedback and ways to improve. Got this cute little thing on the screen. I don't know how to get that off there. So let's move on. So now that we have an understanding of our hindrances, the next step is to focus on building trust and fostering collaboration. Acknowledging our shortcomings is just the beginning. We must actively work to address them. We must build trust and collaboration. We must approach each situation with an openness and a readiness to learn. Genuine engagement is essential. Authenticity and vulnerability enable us to share our challenges, while empathy and compassion deepen our understanding. Transparent communication promotes honesty, and radical acceptance ensures non-judgmental support. Practical wisdom means being well-informed and mindful of real-world impacts. So not just rushing out, but thinking, trying to think big picture, cause and effect. By embracing these principles, we can transform our work environment and we can achieve lasting change. In this process, it is crucial to help everyone, ourselves, our colleagues, and especially those that we serve, discover purpose, build connections, and feel valued. By doing so, we create a supportive and thriving community that can collectively overcome challenges and achieve meaningful purpose. Embarking on a journey of healing and self-discovery has been crucial for my own personal and professional growth. By embracing vulnerability and practicing mindfulness and focusing on continuous learning, I've been able to achieve a more balanced and fulfilling life. So here's just a couple of things that I have done. And this is going to sound high level and fluffy, and that is just because I ran out of time. I have so much more to share, and I will find a means to do that. But please note, if you're on a healing journey, if you're beginning a healing journey, this is just what I did. Your path may look very, very different. The very first thing that I needed to do, the thing that kind of kicked this whole ball off, is I needed to accept my vulnerability. I needed to realize that I couldn't always be the perfect non-emotional leader, the person that heals and doesn't burden anybody with their issues. I needed to just accept my vulnerability and express it and be vulnerable. I sought professional therapy to process my trauma. I started learning how to trust, which was a major issue for me most of my life. And I began leaning on my friends and my family and my colleagues for emotional support. I set clear boundaries between work and my professional life to ensure that there was enough time for me to rest and recharge. And I stuck to those boundaries, not always nicely. And I would have to remind folks is I'm off the clock, I'm off the clock. You'll reach me again tomorrow. I also streamlined my schedule to focus on more meaningful work to help avoid burnout. And I do realize that there are people from all levels here, and this may not be possible, but I pray that if you're working for a place, that your upper management hears this and is willing to be open and flexible and work with you. One of the things that I did is I took a look at all the meetings I was attending, and if I wasn't directly providing input, needed to directly provide input into that meeting or receive direct input from that meeting, I took it off my calendar and I relied on my colleagues to fill me in. I reconnected with my passion, and I have done this time and time and time again. There has been many times throughout my career that I have wondered what in the world was I thinking. There are easier careers that pay better, that don't have nearly as much stress. And so I have to focus and recenter myself often. And in the past, I would do this. I would go to conferences, and after the conference, when I would go out after and just walk the city, I would usually hit up a Dollar Tree or something and fill a backpack with just hygiene products. And so then as I was walking, I would connect with people, help them out with the hygiene products and kind of go from there. Last January was super tough for me. And so part of that healing journey, as I kind of stepped back from my job role, I was able to do that. And I started volunteering at the local warming center and at Sheboygan Pay It Forwards Day Center, both of which are non-funded, which means a little less bureaucracy, difficulty. That was really life-changing for me. It's those moments when I go and I feel so alive. I have felt more camaraderie sitting down with the guys in the day center while they teach me how to play spades than I have working on teamwork, group building activities within work. I have felt closer to God and stronger in my faith, having discussions with folks in the shelter than I have sitting in church. So that is the thing that has helped. That is one of the biggest things that has kept me going. And that's something that I continue to look forward to doing, to just continue to keep grounding myself. Anytime that I feel my compassion battery starting to drain, I do that. And when it gets to the point where it doesn't move me, it's time for me to leave this field. All right. I worked on continuous learning. It gave me a sense when my world was very, very chaotic by doing micro learning things and just continuously trying to grow and improve and learn about emotional intelligence and learn about trauma. I felt like I could gain some control back. I had some control and I was still moving forward, even in the chaos. That was very helpful for me. I did regular journaling. I addressed overdue medical needs, blood work, things that I had been putting off forever because there's always a meeting and there's always something going on. I adopted healthier eating styles, which honestly, on again, off again, roller coaster, to be honest. None of these things, everyone is just a tool in my box that I have pulled out and used while I needed it. And then I put it back and I focus on something else. So this wasn't all being done at the same time. It was slowly incorporated. Oh, I focused on recognizing the root cause of my emotions, and I began to see my emotions in my body and my mind guiding me to better understand my core needs. I looked at them as data because, I'm a data geek. So that has helped me, and I've worked on improving my empathy and my communication skills. I use tracking apps and all kinds of things, stress balls and whatnot. I just realized that we are almost out of time, so I'm going to try to speed it up here. Another thing that I did, and I realized the irony in this, I used AI communication tools like ChatGPT to humanize my emails when I needed to be able to convey compassion and I had no compassion to spare, because it is still frowned upon in the professional realm to start an email with, "Listen, Linda." AI it helped me through an entire 6-month period of my life. So that's just a little tip. So here's some additional things that I did there on the screen. Letting go of guilt and shame was another big one, and acknowledging my strengths and weaknesses. I have been on my healing journey for a little over a year, and it has been filled with challenges and setbacks. Each step, no matter how small, has been part of my continuous effort to grow and heal. This transformative journey has helped me reconnect with my humanity and deepen my compassion to helping others. And it has also helped me support my daughter in her healing process. So just take the time and reflect on your own needs. Take the steps towards healing and personal development. And together we can create a supportive and compassionate environment for ourselves and those that we serve. Here are some resources. There are many, many, many resources, but there are just some key ones on the screen here. Unfortunately, I won't have a lot of time to talk through them, but they are available. The 2 resources that are in orange, the Boundaries book and the Rhythm for Life, both contain Christian content. And in no way am I trying to force my beliefs down anybody's throat. I respect you wherever you come from, whatever your beliefs may be. But I can't honestly talk about my journey or my healing without talking about my faith, because they're very intertwined. All right, so I am a data geek, and this is a data session. So naturally, there will be some data. After this session, we will be providing this link. If you are willing and able, I encourage you to engage and participate. The larger our sample, the more accurate and useful the results will be. Regardless of race, gender, socioeconomic status, education level, location, or position, we all have experiences that shape us. It is vital to recognize that each person is molded by their unique experiences. Celebrating our differences and learning about each other's journeys and understanding their perspectives are essential for growth. We must acknowledge each other's struggles, connect with our emotions, and understand the factors that shape our viewpoint and color the lenses through which we view the world. So to explore this further, as I mentioned, we are providing an anonymous link. It's going to be done via Google Forms. You don't need to put in your name. It does not track your email, and participation is completely voluntary. You can skip any questions that you're not comfortable answering. But by gathering insights together, it will allow us to see the shared human experiences that bind us, regardless of our background. This data will help us to better understand and address the diverse needs of our colleagues, clients, and communities. And it's just a survey I pulled together last minute off the top of my head. So I based it on my journey and what I have heard from the field. There are probably many things missing, but you do have some ability to type things in. So again, I encourage you to participate. And I will be coming back at a later point and date, lunch and learn or something else after I've analyzed and viewed the data, and I can come back and share the results, and we can use that as an open forum to discuss and have that engaged feedback that we were not able to have today. As we conclude the session, I want to express my gratitude for your participation and engagement. My contact information is listed on the screen, and you might be wondering why MTAN Solutions does not have a website. Since founding the company, I have been fortunate enough to stay consistently engaged in meaningful projects. And while I do have some availability for smaller projects, I haven't prioritized building a website because I'm not ready to expand or take on new staff. My focus remains on healing and helping and just finding my groove. If you're interested in receiving updates about James or want to stay connected, please email me or find me on LinkedIn. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining the session, and let's continue to work together to create a supportive and compassionate environment for ourselves and those we serve.
Wow. Shanna, I have no words to just describe what this experience was all about. And thank you so much for your transparency and your openness with this. And one thing I want to say to you, and I'll make a promise to you and make a promise to everybody here who's been part of this session, that we will connect with Shanna and we will look at what next steps Shanna wants to do on this journey and taking us along on this journey. And we will definitely provide space for that to happen. So whatever you need from us, Shanna, just let us know, and we'll continue to keep the door open for this journey and this discussion.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Sorry, I went over. Take care.
You're fine. I'll take care, and we will talk with you later.